This is the skills practice for section 8.2 on parallelograms. We're going to use this figure to find each measure. We know this is a parallelogram because of these marks, not because it looks like it or not because the sections on parallelograms. It's because of the marks. Let's find each measure. We want to find the measure of angle H. We know in parallelograms that opposite angles are congruent. So if this angle is 50, this angle is 50. So we know that angle G's measure is 50. But what about angle H? These angles are congruent to each other as well, but they're not 50. These are acute angles. These are obtuse angles. Remember, your adjacent angles in a parallelogram add up to 180. So this is 130 because of that. 180 minus 50 gives you that 130. How far is it from point G to point H? Or how long is this segment, GH? That's the right side of your figure. If the left side is 25 units, how long is the right side? It'll be 25 units also. Segment FG would have a length of 40. The opposite sides of a parallelogram are congruent. That's a theorem. So we know those match and we know these match. We're going to do the same thing, 5 through 8. It's a parallelogram. We know the opposite angles are congruent. So these match and these match, but these ones are acute, so they're not 120. Remember, these add up to 180. Okay, so this section follows this one pretty closely. Next section might be a little bit different because now we have some diagonals coming through. This is a parallelogram. The opposite sides are parallel. They're telling you some information up here. That's important. T to Q, that's a diagonal right there. That has a length of 42. We know that the diagonals bisect each other. So if that length is 42, then each of these pieces has a length of 21. I just divided 42 by 2. So we're talking distance from T to A. That's this first guy. Has a length of 21. Same thing with A to Q. That has a length of 21. You're not going to figure that out if you didn't notice this information here. Also, S to A is 14, so this piece is 14. Diagonals bisect each other. So if that's 14, A to R is also going to be 14. And I'm not going to put that on the picture, otherwise it's going to get too crowded. They might also ask you how far it is from S to R. If this is 14 and this is 14, you know the whole thing is 28. Other segment lengths, S to Q, that's the left side of your parallelogram. The right side's 22, so the left side is 22. We notice the bottom is 30, so the top is also 30. That's distance from S to T. The other two questions ask you about angle measures. It's really important that you know where these angles live. Measure of angle QST. Here's Q, here's S, here's T. So angle QST, if it helps, I'm going to come down here and redraw this picture. That way the diagonals aren't on it, so I can focus on just that angle. Notice down here they tell you this angle is 45 and 65 together. That's 110 degrees. Well, if that's 110, what's this one? It's also 110. That's angle QST, 110. That's its measure. It's in degrees. What's the measure of angle STR? Angle STR is this angle. These match. These match. But these acute angles aren't going to be the same as these obtuse angles. Remember, these add up to 180. Any angles that are next to each other add up to 180 in a parallelogram. Okay, let's look at the word problems. Number 17, in a parallelogram, the measure of one side is 38. Find the measure of the opposite side. Well, opposite sides in a parallelogram are congruent, so it's 38 also. Number 18, the measure of one angle of a parallelogram is 45. Determine the measures of the other three angles. Well, we know one of them is going to be 45 degrees. It's opposite angle. Now, the angles that are adjacent to this one are not going to be 45, but they're going to be supplementary to it. So 180 minus 45 gives you 135.